Welcome back. I am really excited for what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be learning about inputs, and we're going to be creating our first piece of user-generated data. So we're going to take what we learned in the last video, which was adding stuff to the state and changing it in external storage, and we're going to be applying that to adding a video and changing the state on the server. Let's take a look at our new feature in action. So we'll go to the Add Video link, and then we'll start filling in our form. So we've got our basic text input, which is really cool. You notice it highlights, and then what looked like a placeholder is actually the label. So let's fill this in. And then our description is a text area, so it implies that we can write more. And we can make it multiple lines, multiple paragraphs. And notice we're using our video card here on the right to preview it. So we'll see how we do that later in the video. It's just reusing the component. Nice and simple. Then we'll put in a thumbnail URL, which will automatically display. Then we'll paste in our video URL as well. Then we can hit Create Video, and it will automatically take us to that video's page. And notice we have the ID up here, and you can play it, and then you reload, and it still works. And you can go to our list here and see it displayed. And that's what we'll be creating in today's video. Now, there's a lot of other stuff we could add, like validations, adding tags, an edit or delete button, but those are going to go in future videos. We're going to start off by experimenting with the input. But to do that, we need to have a place to do it, a nice clean place. So let's go ahead and make a new route. And we'll call this, we'll have the path as video/new, and we'll make the name as video create. And then our component will also be video create. We will import that component. And then we'll create that component in our views directory. And then we'll use our VBase autocomplete to get our boilerplate. Now first, to make sure it's working, we'll put in something really basic that we can look at. And then in our app.view, we'll go ahead and put in a link. So it'll be to video/new, and the text will be add video. All right, click there, and the route is working. One thing to note about our routes is that, so let's say we had this down here. Now this will show up very differently. That's because the router will match to the first thing that works. So here, it's trying to use new as the ID. But if we have video/new above the video watch page, then it will detect it first. So if you have stuff that is less specific, put it towards the end, below your more specific stuff. All right, now let's go ahead and create our input. So we'll create this header just so that we know stuff is still working. And we'll put in our first input, and our type will be text. And let's see if that's working. Interesting, nothing's showing up. But if we click here, we see that the input is there. So let's go to our styles, and we'll give this a border of 1 pixel solid black. And now it's nice and outlined. So we can see our input. Let's go ahead and connect it up. So we'll go ahead and give it a value, and we'll call that value first input. Now we could do this, and it would show first input in there. But if we do this, then it will connect it to the first input value, and we can define that first input value in our data. So we'll just say hey. And oh look, there it's defined. And we can go ahead and show that first input afterwards as well. Nice. But what happens when we change it? Nothing. Nothing happened. That's because although it's bound from the data, it's not going to change anything when it changes. But we can fix that. All right, so we'll create a change input method. And this method will take an event, and let's go ahead and see what's available on that event. So we will inspect here, and it shows all these warnings, but that's from before we handled stuff. All right, and so we've hit the debugger, and our event, what do we have available? So we have current target. That could be interesting. We have the path and the target. I don't know how that's different than the current target, but probably the thing we're interested in. Let's see if it has value. Or we'll just... Yes, it does have value. And oh look, it is what we typed in. So event.target.value. And we'll go ahead and assign it to first input. And let's see how this works. So it's not doing it automatically, but when I tab out, it will update that. So we've connected our first input box, but I gotta say, this is gonna be a pain when we get more of them. We have to, bring in the value and do the change and create a new change for each of them. Fortunately, there is a very nice shortcut, vModel. So we're gonna set vModel to first input, and then delete the change input method. And we'll see that they are automatically connected. This makes hooking up inputs much easier. And that's good because we'll be making this input look better and then hooking up 3 more inputs in the next section. So in the last section, we learned how to create an input, how those work. Now we're going to use that knowledge to create a form that looks good and can take in all the information we need. We'll start by fixing the spacing. So we'll replace this div with a vContainer. And that will provide some good spacing on the left. Then we'll add a label for this input. And so that does not look great so far. We'll go ahead and we'll add a div of class field around it and start styling it from there. So here in our field, we'll nest our input and we'll have a label. And on that label, we'll make the display block. And so that will pop that to the next line. So that's a little better so far. And we'll want to connect that label and that field as well. So when we click on the input, it will select it. But when we click on the label, we want it to select as well. So for the label, we'll do for equals first input. And then we have to give this an ID of first input as well. And then once we do that, clicking on the label will highlight the field. Now let's take that and apply it to a second field. Here we go. And we'll just call it second input for now. And we're going to have to update all of these, as well as this. All right, so those are working. We may want to put a little bit of space in between them. So we'll do our padding bottom 10 pixels. So that's nice. Or we could, on each of these individually, add a PB2. And that works as well. But since we want it displaying on every field, we'll just go ahead and define it down here. Now let's go ahead and start connecting this with actual data. So this first one will be the name, and the second one will be the description. And we don't want this to be first input everywhere. Let's return a video, which will be an empty hash to start. And here, this will be video.name, and this will be video.description. And we'll go ahead and change these as well. So we'll check, make sure all of this works. Good. And let's check that filling this out still works. So to start, we'll go below here and just use video.name and video.description. And we'll see that they're still connected. But let's go ahead and see if there is a more attractive way to display the information we have. And as a matter of fact, we do already have a way like that. It is one of these cards. So we will go ahead and import those cards into here and use them. So we'll import our video list video card from components/video list video, and we will put that into a components hash. And then we can use it here. And let's see that all connected up. All right, good. Now we could set this to the side so that when our form gets longer, we can see it all in one. So we'll go ahead and do our vRow and then do vColumns. These are all Vuetify components, by the way, the vColumns and the vRow. And if you're not using Vuetify, then Bootstrap has something similar. And then our columns here, we'll do 3, and here we'll do 9. Or actually, we'll make those our medium, and then our default for the small ones will be 12, so it stacks correctly at all screen sizes. Even though this is admin, and we probably don't have to worry too much about random people being on phones, but it's still nice to have some sort of reactivity in the styling. Okay, now we can continue working on our form. So we'll have two other ones that we'll need. And this one will be the thumbnail URL. And this one will be the video URL. We can check and see that these are already connected to this card right here. Excellent. Our form is almost complete. We just need a Create Video button down at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and add that. We'll use our V button and say Create Video. Excellent. So we have a genuine form right here. Awesome. Our next task will be to actually connect it so it creates a video when we hit this button. So we've got our form created, but when we hit the Create Video button, it does nothing. Let's go ahead and connect that up. And so in this section, we actually won't be learning any new techniques. We'll just be applying what we've learned in previous videos, which, that's a great review. So we'll have the click event hooked into the Create Video method, and then we will add in the Create Video method, and we're going to go to our store and dispatch the Create Video action, and then we'll go to our store, and in our actions, we will create the Create Video action. And so we'll be getting commit and then passing in the video. And then we'll just be calling the commit, and we'll call this add video, since we're going to be adding a video to our state. So here in add video, we've got our state and our video, and just like here, we're going to be letting our list of videos equal to the old set of videos, and then we concat in the new video, and then set the videos on our state to that new array of videos. And let's see if this works. And we'll hit Create Video, and nothing seems to happen. But we'll go here to our array, and oh no. Okay, so what happened is we have the Create Video action, and guess what I forgot to pass? The actual video. Let's try this again. Awesome, and you'll see it's been added to our list of videos. But when we refresh the page, it's gone. And that's because although it was added to the state, it was not persisted to the server. Let's go ahead and fix that. So first we'll create an API instance, and then we'll call post. And I've set up a route that'll accept posts in /videos as long as we feed it a video. And this will return a promise. So to get the response, we need to use await on that promise. And notice we have async already here. So it'll wait until this call returns, and then it'll give us a response. Let's go ahead and check what that response is. So we'll add a video. We'll just shorten this. And let's see what we get back. So our response, we can see we can get data from it, and then .data from that. And that will give us a nice response with the ID of 15, the type of video, and then our attributes and relationships. And we have the ID on the attributes already. And you see we have the name and thumbnail correct as well. So we can just get our video from response.data.data.attributes. Then we'll remove the debugger and send that video here. And this is an error because we've already defined video here, so let's make this saved video. So we'll be adding the saved video to our state. And the reason that's better than adding this video is because this one has an ID. Let's try this out. So we'll name this new video just to distinguish it from the other ones. And we hit create video, and we'll go and we'll see that it has been created. And when we refresh the page, it's still there. And we can click it to go to its video show page. So our form is working, and it's persisting the video. But there's one more nice thing I'd like to add. So when you hit create video, I'd like to go to this show page immediately, so redirecting there. To do that, first we will return the video from create video. And then in video create, let's make this an async function. And we'll let the video equals await our dispatch. And so then we should be getting the video back, and through that, the video ID. From our component, we can access the router, and then to redirect to our video watch page, we'll use .push. And you may be wondering, .push, that's kind of a weird name, but what it does is it pushes something into the history stack. And so this is the stack, here's the top, and it'll just push something up here. And what it will push, the syntax of it will be the same thing as if we'd done to in a router link. So it will be the name, and we'll be going to video watch, and then we'll be putting in params, and the param we're putting in is ID. And it'll be video.id. And I put in extra hash there, and then that should work. Let's test it out. We'll do new video 3 and hit create video, and we've been properly redirected. And so now we have a completely working video create form. Of course, it doesn't look the best, but that's something that we're going to be fixing in the next section. So we've got two problems with our form. First, these are kind of plain. And second, they take 4 lines each to define. I mean, that's not a huge problem. We could get around it, but for longer forms, that's inconvenient. Fortunately, those can both be fixed with one thing, and that is vText field. That is a Vuetify component, and it's much simpler to define. So we just need to put on the V model and the label. And that one line will replace all 4 of those. And of course, we need to have it as a self-closing tag. And then you can see it has this beautiful thing. And it has the label. It looks like it's a placeholder, and you click it, and it goes up there. That's really nice. And of course, it is still connected. Let's go ahead and replace the other 3. All right, that looks much nicer in our code and much nicer on the page. In addition, we can delete all this custom CSS. Then, while we're here making stuff nicer, let's change our description to a text area. And now we have a greater space to write our description. Let's go ahead and look at what other options we have. So here in the text field, you can see that there are a lot of things we could do. This is pretty well documented. Let's go ahead and grab one, hint. I wonder what that does. So we'll go to our code and we'll want a hint on our video URL. And let's see how that displays. So it shows it below it when we click on that input field. Now let's put an actual hint that's useful. That's nice. So that gives us some added context on what we want to do with the URL. And that's it for our Create Video form for now. Before we move on to the next feature, let's go ahead and review what we learned in this video. First, we learned that the order of routes matters. So if we have this route above this route, then video/new will direct correctly. But if we have it below, then it'll try to send it to video watch with an ID of new. Next, we learned the basics of setting up an input field with a label. So if you have an ID on the input field, you need a for that's matching if you want to be able to click the label and highlight the field. Then you can connect the input field with a property using vModel. And so that will provide a two-way binding. Now there are other ways of doing it that we showed earlier in the video, but you're going to want to use vModel because it's a lot easier. And then later on, we showed how to use the Vuetify vText field in order to simplify this. So this is the equivalent of this, except the Vuetify one is shorter and looks much nicer. Then we learned how to persist this form. So we've got everything connected to video, which the default is defined here in our data. Then when we click this button, we're going to set on the click event calling the create video method. And we have this method defined here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dispatch to the store the create video action and send the video that we've been putting data on as one of the arguments. So let's go to our store. Here we have our create video action. And the first thing we're going to do here is send a post request to the server. And that's going to give us back a response. And it will be the same as our video once we, grab all the attributes. The attributes are going to be the same as our video, except it's going to have an ID. And that's going to be very important in a little bit. Anyways, we commit that new video. And here, this is a pretty simple one. It just concats that new video onto the state of the current array of videos. And then it returns the saved video. And that gets assigned here. And then we use that to redirect the router to our new video. So router.push is the same thing as a router link. And we call it push instead of redirect to or something like that, because it's pushing something onto the stack of routes that we've been to. And you can see that stack of routes here. in our browser history. All right, so this is the same as if we had done 2 equals blah, blah, blah in a router link. We have the name of the video watch, and that's the route we're going to, and then we pass in the params. And that's it for today. Once again, thank you for watching, and as always, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below.